people are saying, well, do we have mass deportations? And I guess like since you've done a year and more at DHS, what would you classify as mass deportations? Where should DHS be going? And I know Markwayne Mullin is in the middle of his confirmation hearing right now, so I want to get to that. But like, what is the classification of a mass deportation for you?
Well, I think the classification of a mass deportation is if you were in this country illegally, then you need to be arrested and deported. And that absolutely should be happening. And I think will continue to happen. I think we also have to look at our illegal immigration system, which the Joe Biden administration completely plundered. They completely exploited the parole program. Temporary protected status, which a lot of your viewers are probably familiar with, really was just a rubber stamp to let these individuals in with no vetting. So I think that we did see about 3 million illegal aliens leave the country. The vast majority of that was from self-deportations, which are a lot cheaper, a lot safer for communities, a lot safer for law enforcement. But what we saw a lot of, at least during my 13 months there, Benny, was that the more arrests we were making, the more these illegal aliens within the interior of our country were getting the message, hey, if I don't leave now, I'm going to get arrested. I'm never going to be able to return. And so I'm hoping under a Mullen tenure, we're going to see more and more of that.
Okay, so the number is 3 million voluntary deportations.
3 million total. So I think it was around 2.5 million self-deportations and a little over 600,000 deportations last year.
What was the major, because, everyone was like, well, and Stephen Miller, it's constantly messaging and driving home like, we have 20 million. Wait, let me take a step back. Why would I lecture you on this? How many criminal aliens are there? How many people illegally are there living in the country today?
Around 15 million is based on estimates. That is a huge problem, though, Benny, is that there's not total consensus on how many are actually in the country illegally. I think that's a big part of the push to have that U.S. Census finally start checking on what citizenship is in this country.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously a critical question. If I had a time machine, go back and tell the founders, Please make the Second Amendment really, really specific and then say citizens, not persons, when you're counting the census. But, I don't have a time machine, and they're really smart. And I think we're fine with hopefully amending something that counts just the citizens. But I guess the point is okay, so 15 million and 3 million has either self-deported or have been deported.
Yes. Otherwise exited the country. Exactly right. And when we only have a couple more years for sure in office, so we've got to crank those numbers up. And I'm confident President Trump has the will and fortitude to do just that.
Okay, so 1/5. So 1/5 is what we're. So it's been 1/5 in the first year. So if you could keep those numbers constant, you could get almost. If you're staying at 3 million deportations or self-deportations per year, then you're almost at the entirety of the illegal population in the country. Is that correct? Am I doing the math there right?
That's correct. But I think, Benny, the other piece of this too, and I mentioned that temporary protected status, those parole programs, Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, Venezuela, CHNV, a lot of your viewers might be familiar with. I mean, really, again, rubber stamping these people who were not vetted into our country. It really was an optics play because these programs really started being stood up right around 2023. The Biden administration saw the optics at the border were abysmal. They were losing public support. Border security was becoming a huge national security issue. And they said, hey, instead of having these massive droves of people come to our border and there being photos and video of that, instead we're just going to let these people in and call it legal.
Yeah, that's right. And they flew them in the dark of night.
They did.
Yeah, I saw some statistic that ICE has deported 10% of New Orleans. Is that square?
I haven't seen that statistic. Okay. I mean, we did have a lot of cooperation, right, from the Louisiana governor and the state and local government there. Those 287G agreements, which basically means that ICE is allowed to deputize state and local government and law enforcement to actually carry out deportation and make immigration arrests. So, I mean, when you saw Florida, I would think that number would be even higher there, Texas as well, because of those authorities. So, I mean, those agreements, I mean, they sound very technical, but they're actually incredibly important to the safety of the country. And then on the other side, you have the Virginias of the world where under Youngkin, we saw a lot of cooperation. They were honoring ICE detainers, meaning that if illegal alien came into state or local custody, that they'd eventually be turned over to ICE once they served their sentence, and so that they could be deported. Now under Spanberger, we're not having that, even with the most violent criminals. That's a huge problem.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, obviously this is a huge problem. Like the base, the MAGA base and the American First Movement want mass deportations. I guess at these numbers, you could almost say that all criminal, I mean, if you stay up at 3 million per year and there's 15 million based on all, then you could say, well, we're in the first year of the second Trump term, we would get virtually all criminal aliens out of the country as long as you're allowing 0 more in. I think that's good. I think it's like, I think it's like a good start. Okay. So Mark Mullen is going to carry the torch here. Why don't we, this is your first time on since you've left DHS and since Kristi Noem was, I guess, reassigned, that'd be the right way to say it, to like a different, to a different job. What's the background story there? What's your advice to Mark Wayne as he's going through his confirmation this morning?
So far, it looks so good. He's doing a great job. I think he's going to be really pushed to make different commitments to, especially to every senator, but especially the Democrats on the committee. And they'll push for ending administrative warrants, stop using masks. They'll push for not you going into safe locations. So what the administration changed was what we saw in past administrations was that Joe Biden, he said, if you are ICE law enforcement, if you're CBP, you cannot go into a church, you can't go into a hospital, you can't go into these so-called safe locations. What was happening was these criminals then were taking safe harbor in these locations. That absolutely has to stop. It puts innocents, of course, in danger, and it hampers our law enforcement officers. So those are commitments that you're going to see Democrats try to force Mark Wayne Mullen to take, and he really shouldn't take the bait there. It does imperil our law enforcement, and he needs to be able to run that agency as he sees fit and talk to these career law enforcement officers who deal with the day-to-day on the ground there. That the Democrats, I mean, I don't think any of these guys have ever been on an ICE operation. Benny, you've been on multiple ICE operations, and you see what these men and women deal with day to day. There's a reason they wear masks. There's a reason that they conduct the operations in the way they do, and that's what they're going to need to be effective.
Yeah, it was insanely dangerous, and obviously we've seen how radicalized and how violent the left is. They are truly a paramilitary force, unlike anything I've ever seen. They behave like ISIS, frankly, in our country, and attacking federal law enforcement. They do worse on a day-to-day basis than anything that ever happened on January 6th to federal law enforcement. It's totally allowed because of who's in power. And it's incredible how the heel turns as soon as Democrats get in power.